From training camp.
If you want a job now, you got to work hard.
To the preseason.
Scampers down to the 32-yard line.
Through the playoffs.
He's in! Touchdown!
And into the offseason.
To be able to get the best players, it's a critical time for us.
It's always Colts season. This is Colts Corner with Kevin Bowen.
Goodbye, summer. Hello, football. Grand Park, Westfield, Indiana. That's the home of the Colts for the next, really, three plus weeks. And yours truly, Kevin Bowen, will be up there a whole lot. Thank you for returning back. This is the Colts Corner with Kevin Bowen. Eddie Garrison is across the way. And as Eddie pointed out earlier this morning, we're recording this on Wednesday, July 24th, report day for the Colts. Eddie heard our interview with Michael Pittman Jr. this morning and thought, you know what? That needs to be on the podcast. So if you missed that, that would be number 11 with us. We will play that here coming up in a little bit on the pod. But obviously, Eddie, anytime it's report day, we'll focus mainly on the Chris Ballard specific topics from his, what could be, I kind of forget. I feel like he doesn't do a roster cut down presser. Maybe he does do that. That could be the final time we hear from Ballard for a while here this season. So we'll recap that. And then obviously we'll dabble back a few times here throughout the end of July and early August with training camp pods. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Did you have a good time out there seeing some of your media buddies for the first time in a while?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I really had a great summer. Spent a lot of time with the family and was able to relax with them and get on the golf course a good amount. And people ask me, okay, how you feeling about training camp started? And I think my answer in the last week or so was a little bittersweet, just because you do lose a lot of that time, and really there's not a free weekend potentially until January. But there is a little part of me that definitely felt it driving up to Grand Park today. Here we go, and I just love that. I love now getting answers. I love now the content. I just feel like is much realer. It gets closer to what we love, and I think that's 17, 18 Sundays out of the year, and I know our audience really enjoys that. So as someone that produces the content alongside yourself, I really enjoy this time of year. So really looking forward to getting out there tomorrow morning, and then of course the rest of training camp. Let's begin here with Ballard. I always appreciate his candor when he describes position battles. So let's start there. Actually, he mentioned. Well, should we start with the quarterback now that I think about it? I'm like, should we just get Richardson out of the way? we should probably do that. Let's start with Anthony Richardson.
Or hold on. Let's do Ballard to keep people listening.
Well, let's focus on Chris Ballard's comments in relation to Anthony Richardson. It sounds like no limitations for him. Frankly, I thought it would have been alarming had we heard that there would be limitations.
Did that move the needle for you?
On it? No, because I didn't expect it. And again, the only thing that would have moved the needle would have been the other way. And if you look at their camp schedule, Eddie, it's 12 practices, but it's super spread out. No back-to-back-to-back days.
7 back-to-back days.
Oh, gosh, I thought it was less than that. I thought it was only 4 back-to-back days. I could be wrong on that, but right out of the gate here, you don't go back-to-back. I mean, you practice tomorrow.
Or might be right.
Nothing Friday. So it is unlike really any training camp schedule I've seen, even in recent years. I mean, you at least had some consecutive nature to it, and there's not a lot of that here in this camp. So I guess that's good news, and welcome to sports science in 2024, probably contributing to a lot of that. And it sounds like, Ballard wants to see Richardson and the starters in the preseason. And if you go back to last year's preseason, albeit Richardson wasn't named the starter officially until after that first game, he played about 55, 60 snaps, and he played about, I think it was 8 or 9 series of football. Those are big numbers for a starting quarterback, and I think he should do that again this year. He sat out that week 2 preseason game last year after the joint practices with the Bears, so theoretically he could do that again with the Cardinals this time around. So just some things to watch on the Richardson preseason front, but everything looks good on that end. As far as position battles, Ballard prefaced by saying something to the effect of pretty much all the ones you guys have talked about, but secondary was the first one he mentioned, and he basically summed it up in very similar manner to how we have summed it up. Kenny Moore and Julian Blackmon are obvious locks at corner. You kind of got the 3 for 2 with Juju Brents, Jalen Jones, and Dallas Flowers competing for those two outside spots in the nickel. And then at safety, Blackman, of course, is the mainstay. I would call Nick Cross the favorite at free safety. Ballard lumped in Rodney Thomas II, Ronnie Harrison Jr., and then Trevor Denbo as the other safeties in competition there. Something that Ballard mentioned in regards to the secondary, Eddie, that Ballard does this often with young players. He likes to throw up a bit of a caution flag, or just a bit of a, hey, let's just be patient. Let's not crown anybody. It's a phrase Ballard has used quite often. The issue that I have in the secondary in regards to a similar statement he made today, this schedule does not afford you the opportunity to be patient. It's QB front-loaded. We've said it since the schedule came out in May. It's easily the biggest stark contrast to me in looking at the schedule from September to Thanksgiving versus the rest of the season. You have all of your road divisional games before Halloween. You have arguably your most important game of the season, Week 1. And you could make an argument, maybe your most difficult road game is Week 2 and at Green Bay. So, Ballard says something today, it might take a little time, and it might, be even into the first month of the season. And I get why he says that, but that is what is concerning. This schedule is not college football. What happens in college football? 90% of the teams in major college football have operated under the impression that we're going to go cakewalks out of the gate because we're going to get 6 guys suspended in the offseason, and we don't want them playing against Charleston Southern Week 1.
Yeah.
Nothing against our Charleston Southern football alumni. I apologize. Anybody out there supporting them. But you catch my drift of where I'm kind of coming with that. It is so QB front-loaded. You obviously have Stroud and Jordan Love right out of the gate. Those growing pains, if and when they do occur, they're going to hurt more. They just are, because those games matter more. And the quarterbacks can expose you a little bit more on that end. A couple other positions, battles of note. Eddie, he mentioned backup linebacker for Zaire Franklin. I think when we've talked about linebacker this year, they obviously have got their 2, Zaire and Speed. But what happens when someone goes down? I do think that, is a question there. Swing offensive tackle, Blake Freeland, Matt Gonzalez there. And then number 2 running back. I would view Trey Sermon as a favorite there, but that is something on Ballard's mind. DB-wise, I guess for those that will watch the video, Ballard definitely misheard me in my answer, my question to him. I asked him, something to the effect of, in watching your young DBs in the spring, what has kept you away from the veteran move? I believe he thought I said better instead of veteran move. So after like a little bit of an awkward 5 to 10 seconds there, I was like, I thought I misspoke once he kind of challenged me on that. And in reality, it sounded like he just kind of misunderstood me. Veteran move. He definitely didn't close the door shut.
Frickin' Bowen.
And yeah, exactly. He definitely didn't close the door shut by any means in talking about or bringing in a veteran safety, a veteran DB, I should say. But they like their young players, and they want to see those young guys compete. So, as that clock starts to tick, Eddie, 12 practices, that's it, of training camp. How long will you wait if you feel like you need to make a move? And I guess off of that, we should probably transition into some of the guys banged up. I would say one of the more unfortunate guys to be on this list to start training camp is Juju Brents. Now, it doesn't appear to be serious by any means, but Chris Bauer did mention Juju had an ankle cleanup after OTAs. He believes he'll be cleared, which means he won't show up on the PUP list or NFI or anything like that, but he could be limited early. Ballard said he watched him work out and he thought he looked fine. And, it's just, it's unfortunate that Juju's dealing with anything, to have to miss a month and a half of training in the offseason or just, have to rehab from injuries. It's just different than your football-specific training that you'd love to do. And, I don't think we're here yet by any means, but, a career that I thought really unfortunate with how injuries hurt it early on, because I did think you saw flashes of it early, was a guy like Paris Campbell. And when you talk about Juju and what he's dealt with injury-wise, we're talking about a lot of different injuries. We're talking about several surgeries. That's just unfortunate. Now, this is a guy that's played a lot of football, played a lot of corner, so it's not like you're dealing with that on top of it. But still, you obviously hope his stay on the sideline, if it's for any length here in camp, is not very long. Braden Smith, Ashton Doolin, both of them will be brought along slowly. They both missed, I think, the entire spring. Knee cleanup for Braden Smith in the offseason, that ACL for Ashton Doolin last year at camp. Chris Lamons has got an ankle. He's a corner, kind of a slot corner. He's going to miss a week or two. I would say that's good news for a guy like Micah Abraham, the rookie out of Marshall, who could potentially be a slot guy and filling out this roster. And Tyler Goodson, who I think could very well compete for a roster spot at running back, dealing with a little bit of a toe injury. Let me pause there, Eddie. I got a couple more Ballard items, but anything stick out to you? Anything you want to chat about while I drink my water?
No, it was actually one of the least newsworthy media availabilities that you guys have had with Chris Ballard, because there's not really anything to note other than Richardson's shoulder. Like, that was the only thing I think that anyone had a potential question on, and like, hey, why didn't you feel like you needed to add the veteran cornerback as you addressed there?
I would agree. I would also especially agree when you compare that to, the Colts just signed Laquan Treadwell. Wow, that's a name from the past. Just saw that
waived Xavier White.
Come across the wire. I believe White was an undrafted free agent out of Texas Tech, if that strikes me. Okay, when do you think, I'm going to put you on the spot, not me. When do you think the last time Laquan Treadwell caught a pass in the NFL?
I'll go 2 years ago.
Laquan Treadwell caught, drum roll please, un pass in the NFL last season.
Oh, darn it.
Un. 6th the year before in Seattle.
Who did he catch a pass with last year?
Baltimore. Man, I do feel like Baltimore at times, they just have random wideouts that I'm like, wait, that dude's on the Ravens? Do you ever feel that way?
Oh, it was their final game of the regular season.
Final game, so that would have been like, they're probably resting guys, right?
Yeah.
Un catch for Mr. Treadwell, 3 the year before. Look at that.
Former first-round pick. Ole Miss.
Yeah. Interesting there. Boy, I had no idea that he was I totally forgot he was a Jag for 12 games there. Okay, where are we at? Yes, just not very newsy. No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, no. Especially when you compare it to most Colts. I mean, most Colts off seasons follow a little bit of a different script there. Let's transition to the Ryan Kelly news. That probably falls in maybe the biggest, like, I always kind of go with, like, what's Stephen Holder writing on? Because that usually means, like, what do the national people care about biggest? And I'm pretty sure he wrote on Ryan Kelly. So Kelly was asked about his contract situation. He is an unrestricted free agent for next season. So this is a contract year. He's 31 years old. He has expressed a desire that he doesn't want to retire. He's said that very clear. How much longer, who knows? And it sounds like, based off what Kelly said, his representation approached the Colts wanting an extension, and the Colts said no. Those are kind of Kelly's words. Ballard pretty much said what you would expect Ballard to say. I think our track record shows we're loyal to quality players, et cetera, et cetera. I don't talk about contracts. I think that'll work itself out. I'm totally good with the Colts not giving Ryan Kelly an extension. I just think,
why is that?
Draft Tanner Bortolini in round 4 for a reason.
Okay.
I think with how economics work on an NFL team, I think starting a 4th round pick at center is something I nod my head at. Sure, that makes sense. I don't think you need to invest too much there. I think in an ideal world, you wouldn't have 18th overall pick money and a 15, whatever his cap hit is. Let's just call it $15 million, a $15 million cap hit at a center. So I kind of view Bortolini, you pass the torch a little bit, and finances are tight, and sure, why not? You pair with Anthony Richardson, you're center of the future. That's how I look at it. It is wild. Ryan Kelly said to start his press conference today, and I feel like this is accurate. I guess Richardson split time a little bit with Minshew last year, but this is the first time he's had the same starting quarterback in consecutive training camps.
Yes.
So he was the QB in 16 with Luck as a rookie.
The center, yeah.
Center, excuse me, thank you. 17, Luck missed. 18, Luck is back.
Yep.
19, Luck was, I feel like he was in and out at times during camp before he retired.
Yeah.
20, of course, Rivers. 21, Wentz. 22, Ryan. 23, And at this point, I think everyone's ready to just take a fork right to their eyeball, so I'll stop there. But yeah, it was kind of wild when Kelly said that. So, that maybe is the biggest, item. I look at free agents next year, Eddie, and I'm like, wait, Dio Dangbo? Like, that to me is a guy that I think is trending in the right direction to earn it. We'll see about Kylan Granson. I think EJ Speed might be a free agent. Blackman, of course, a free agent. Mo Alley Cox, Will Fries. So, again, nobody that I think just breaks the bank. We'll see about Dio. But I am good. I'm good with the Colts.
Did you mention EJ Speed? I think. Yeah,
I think I did, or at least I hope I said Speed. I'm good with it. I think Kelly's a good player, but you know me. I'm all about trying to, how do you pass the torch? And I think that is one that makes some sense on paper, theoretically, to do. Bortolini needs to put on some weight. Sure. Why not?
Would your mind change at all if Kelly goes out there and plays all 17 again?
Honestly, I think this is a lot. It's kind of like the Pacers. Like I said this about the Pacers and Obi Toppin. A lot of it is what you think about Jarris Walker. I think a lot of what Ryan Kelly is, and it's probably not apples to apples. It's probably a poor analogy, but a lot of it is what you believe in Tanner Bortolini. I mean, we're talking. Well, I mean, what's Kelly's? I bet Kelly's cap hit's right around $15 million. That's a lot of money in a center. Eddie, look at all the money they just re-signed guys with. Finances are going to get tighter. Ryman extension. You can't lose sight of that as well. So that was on the Kelly front.
His cap hit is $14.625 million.
Yeah. I mean, boy, Ballard loves his football team. He loves it. He loves the weapons. He is bullish on Jonathan Taylor having a big year. Yeah, I think it's like a genuine, like, he really thinks there's something, I don't know if special is too big of a word to use, but he's a big believer in that there is something there. I feel like that covers everything Ballard related from me. Anything on your end?
Nothing from Chris, but in terms of the players, you highlighted it with Ryan Kelly. I think when you look at specifically the guy you were just talking about, Jonathan Taylor, and his top goal being playing in all 17 games, do you think there's a limitation of the workload at all?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a question that I would have. Now, you listen to Ballard, you listen to Steichen. I don't think they view it like that. But, in the back of your mind, is there a little bit of a, hey, obviously you're trying to win games, and they have, a ton of very important games early in the season. So, those do matter a whole lot. But, is there a, hey, 14, 16 carries through the first half of the year, try to keep him, ready to go kind of late December and January? I think Taylor will be a really interesting case study to see how his career evolves from here. And just comparing that to other running backs, the old death sentence once they turn age 27, is that there for him? Is that not there for him? I think that'll be things certainly to keep an eye on.
I mean, it's so big for the league that Jonathan Taylor goes out and performs because
he's carrying a huge running back flag.
Because, huge. Yeah, because of sitting out last season, even though he's on the final year, or to start at least, staying on the PUP list on that quote-unquote ankle injury, and then he secures the big contract. I mean, you even heard in the Hard Knocks episode with the New York Giants that they dropped the Jonathan Taylor contract reference in there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we brought that up maybe on last week's pod. Yeah, Malky Kawa and Frank Gore and company talking about, hey, at 27 years old, this and that. So, yeah, I do think that is something that'll be very interesting to watch, obviously, in our market, but league-wide as well. Unless you've got anything else Ballard-related, I say we throw in the Pittman interview and then go to about a handful of Twitter questions.
I agree with you.
Michael Pittman Jr., this was Report Day with us, myself, Kevin Bowen, and Andy Sweeney on the Wake Up Call.
Now joining us here, he is number 11 for the Indianapolis Colts, year 4 for him, Michael Pittman Jr. with us. Pitt, Andy Sweeney, my co-host, was saying to us, you'd probably rather talk about your farm than you would football. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I came in this morning and my emu had walked right up to me, and I took a Instagram video, so you guys can check it out there.
Look at that.
Okay.
Yeah. A little IG plug here on this Wednesday morning. Now, this might be a dumb question. Are the animals emotional that Dad's leaving for a couple weeks?
I don't think that they notice, really, to be honest with you.
Oh, I bet they do. Don't sell yourself
You got kids as well. I just didn't know if there was an emotional attachment with the animals as well.
Yeah, so actually, my daughter was in a bad mood today, and she didn't want anything to do with me, but it's okay because I'll get to see her tomorrow.
Well, as someone that has a 4-year-old daughter, I think you and I are in the same boat on that end, as the daughter not wanting anything to do with Dad.
Michael, I have a 10-month-old, so he still likes me right now.
Is probably the key phrase.
In a couple years, that may change. We were talking so much about the excitement for this season. Your contract got done in the offseason, Jonathan Taylor and other guys, and it just feels like the time is now. The time is to be in the playoffs again and to be contending. For you guys checking in today, that excitement level is where, knowing this team has a ton of talent on it.
Absolutely. I think that we just got to take it day by day, just know that we have everything that we need to take it that far, and we just got to focus on what we have to do right now and then just stack each day, and then I think that we'll look up and we'll be in a pretty good spot.
You've always been a pretty big individual goal guy. What are your goals heading into this season?
Yeah, so I have a lot of goals. I actually haven't narrowed them in yet because it takes me a while, almost like a couple months to really narrow in and lock in on them, because I set goals. So I set my overall goal. It almost works like a big pyramid. So my number one goal, what is that? And that is Super Bowl win, right? And then under that I have 3 goals, and then under that I have my targets that are my weekly to monthly targets. I have to be doing this, and then I have my daily targets that I have to catch 300 balls this day, I have to catch, or I got to run this many routes, I got to do this, I got to watch this much film, and those are my daily targets. And that's how I keep on track is I can look back hey, I did this and that, but I forgot this, I need to get back on it, and it kind of just keeps you on a straight line.
Does that touchdown number, when you think about that big number, where's that on the goal list for this season?
So that one is 10 plus. So that's one thing that we're really focused in on this year is scoring more.
Michael Pittman Jr. with us. A.D. Mitchell gets drafted in round number 2. I know every media guy over there is going to ask you about this. They probably already have this morning. What is he going to bring to that wide receiver room, and how is he going to push you and everybody else in that room, you think?
Absolutely. He brings a competitive aspect, and he has something that we didn't really have before. He's very shifty. I think the best part about the best part about his game is probably his releases. You cannot guard the guy, so he's going to be great for us.
I have described you this way, and I hope you take that as a compliment. There's no USC pretty boy in how you play football.
Thank you.
Do you take that as a compliment first off?
Yeah, absolutely.
You should be playing defense. Was there ever a time that you thought that?
So I actually wanted to play defense. So the story goes, USC told me that I could play both ways. And then once I got there, they're like, no, you're playing offense. And then my favorite players when I was younger were Ray Lewis, Brian Dawkins, and Tyrann Matthews and Patrick Peterson. I didn't have any offensive
Those are some dogs on the defensive side.
in my top favorite players. So I always thought that I would be an outside linebacker, maybe like a downhill safety, and USC forced me into playing receiver, and it didn't turn out bad for me. So,
Did you play special teams there at all?
Yes. So I played special teams for 3 of my 4 years, and then my last year I was just offense.
Nationally, a lot of talk right now is around wideouts in the contracts. Right now, Brandon Ayuk this, CD Lamb that, same draft class as you. You mentioned this in June. I was curious if you could expand on it for our audience that missed it. You like your contract.
Yeah.
Why? Because you see some of the monetary value. It's wait a minute, if I could have waited a little longer, I could have made even more.
Absolutely. I think the guys have to realize that you also have to look at your situation and your offensive scheme, and you don't want to leave a system that works for you, right? Because we've seen guys who are really good in a certain system, and then they go somewhere else and they kind of fade off, right? So you have to have that foresight, but hey, if I'm keep on doing what I'm doing, I'm going to sign a third, maybe even a fourth, and you'll end up making more in the long run versus right now. And so that would just be my like advice, like those guys. But also, I mean, they have to take care of their families and do what they think is right. And to me, I mean, when you get to a certain amount of money, it's like you want to see your value with like other guys that you consider yourself, but like you get to a certain amount, it's like just like you don't really need more than that. So it's all kind of the same, right? So that's kind of how I look at it.
Michael Pittman Jr. with us here on the Fan. So wake-up call on this Wednesday. Obviously, last year, the injuries to Anthony Richardson, I don't want to say slowed you guys down because you still obviously had a really good year, and you yourself had a really good year. If AR stays healthy, how much more of the offense have we not seen as media members that you think you guys can tap into?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've really seen anything because obviously in his first 2.5 games is we were kind of just like getting them going, right? So with the full season of it, I mean, I don't even know like what it can look like, really. Nobody does. So we're all excited, and it's going to be good.
How do you describe catching a pass from Anthony Richardson?
Ooh.
I would say that he gets there on time, and he's got velocity, but he also knows when to dial it back, right? So he's not going to bullet you a 5-yard slant. Like, he's going to put some touch on it, and he can throw the deep ball well. And I feel like from last year to this year, I feel like he's grown a ton, just being able to sit back and watch, and he's really focused in and took notes, and I think it's going to show.
He's Michael Pittman Jr. He's with us here for a few more minutes. We're live at Westfield Report Day for training camp. I think fans want the players of their team to love the city, love the area that they're now calling home. You just smiled when I said that, and I've heard you discuss Indy and whether it's the farm or whether it's Indy as a whole, and it seems like there's a genuine love for this area, and you're not from anywhere close to here.
Yeah.
Why? What is it about it? And I guess maybe it is all the farm, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
What is it?
I mean, I would say it starts with the people that I've met since I've been here, and that was one of the biggest parts about me staying here is I love everybody that's in this building. Everything here is great. I mean, from our staff to our coaches to my teammates and friends that I've made off of the field, and it's just sort of like the family value that I see here. Obviously, being from LA and being over there, like everything's just moving so fast. Like everything is a lot slower here, and that's kind of what we see. How we want to raise our kids, like in a slower environment that's like a little more family centered, than California can be, because not all parts of California are like that, and like we still like going back and visiting, but we definitely wanted to call Indy home, so we got ourselves a farm, and we're farming now.
Now, what's the hardest part about farming?
Can you walk us through a day on the farm?
Just give us something for the farm,
because you're out there doing it.
Yeah, the hardest part about the farm right now is we are a organic farm, and we have a gravel driveway, so weed control right now for me is killing me because
what are you using? Tell us.
So we have 30% vinegar, and we also have a weed torch. So I carry around a big 40-pound propane tank, and I have a torch, and I just walk and I torch all the weed.
We need this on the Instagram.
And I mean, I'm out there for
poor weeds. Now I'm feeling sorry for the weeds a little bit.
No.
So that's probably the hardest part. But everything else, I mean, feeding animals and doing that, I mean, that's all like the fun stuff.
The podcast, you had EJ and Zaire up there. Those guys are crazy. You guys did that. You guys had an episode at the farm. Those guys are nuts, though, on that podcast.
Yeah, they don't know nothing about farm animals or horses, and it was a lot of fun.
I guess the last one for me, since you've been here, you haven't won week one. How do you win week one?
That I'm still trying to figure that out. Yeah. Really, it's just preparation. We just have to prepare, and we have to start fast. And I think that our best chance is this year, right? Because every year you got a new opportunity, and we have so many weapons coming out the gate. We got JT healthy. We got AR healthy. So, I mean, just having that 1-2 combo back there, which is really going to open up everybody. And I'm excited. We just got to start fast.
I love his candor, Eddie.
He's gotten so much better at just talking to media, whether that's you or the entire scrum, compared to his rookie campaign. And I know a lot of that has to deal with having a speech impediment with the stutter, but he's talked about how he's worked through it and how he's come to accept it.
And honestly, I really respect him for that. I was someone that went to speech class for an impediment on my own end back in elementary school. I remember how much I absolutely hated that and how embarrassing it was. And for Pittman to be as in big of a spotlight as he is and to, work through that, I just have a ton of respect for him on that end. And again, it's not like the most long-winded answers, but I just think you get a lot of honesty from him on a variety of topics. Whether it's the farm, whether it's the wideouts in the contract, it's his A.D. Mitchell thoughts. It's his, I love how he breaks down the goal pyramid with you on that end. So, and I like that he liked the USC pretty boy comment. I appreciated that. I needed that. I don't think I'd ever shared that with him. So I was glad that he gave me a smile on that.
And I'm glad you got to learn something in the process of that, of him saying that he grew up watching defensive guys. And
those guys he listed.
Yeah.
Those are some dogs that he listed there on the defensive side of the ball.
What'd you think of his it seemed to me that his top goal this upcoming season is to get in the end zone more.
Yeah, the 10 touchdowns that he mentioned, certainly. And, again, I think if you look at his resume, that I would say oftentimes is a quick mention of the people that don't believe Michael Pittman Jr. is at the level that, whatever, number one label or how he's getting paid. So, touchdowns to me, I've kind of been torn on at times. I think they can just be, you got tackled to the 2-yard line and then the third string tight end benefits from a play action fake on the next play. It's like yes and no. It's like the plus minus in the NBA box score or college basketball box score. I'm like, well, some days I want to agree with it. Some days I don't want to agree with it. But nonetheless, I do think overall the TD number does need to come up a little bit. And I would just like to see a little bit more of the downfield stuff, because, he high pointed some balls at USC. He was just such a weapon. And I'd like to see that out of him certainly here coming up.
I think of that San Francisco game in the rain and, or was that Baltimore? Either one, really.
Yeah,
he has the high point. He also has the high point one against Baltimore where he loses the helmet.
Yeah. I mean, he's had some plays, but again, I just like to see more attempts for him to do that.
One final thing on the Pittman front, during the media scrum, as I like to call it sometimes, this was not in the interview that you just heard. He kind of listed the tiers in terms of a wide receiver one, tier one being 1,400 yards, tier two, 1,200, tier three is 1,000. Last year, he was 48 yards off of tier number two. Do you think that he can get into that tier one category of 1,400 receiving yards?
He made the point he was on pace for it until he got the concussion, in that big hit in the Pittsburgh game. My quick answer is no, just because of the others. The arrival of A.D. Mitchell, a healthier Jonathan Taylor. When you look at Richardson theoretically running in a little bit as well. So, again, I'm not too focused on that, but I would say no.
See, I go yes.
Okay.
For those reasons you laid out, to me, I don't think there's as much of a focus on Pitt, and he's going to get a lot more space to work with to get some yards after the catch a little bit that we haven't seen in some recent seasons. We saw the big one against Cleveland. He goes 76 yards or whatever to the house.
Right, the catch and run.
Yeah. So, with all the things you listed there, I think there's going to be less attention on him for them to stop him.
I just don't know if the targets are going to be there. He had to have been one of the more heavily targeted guys in the league last year. Will the quantity of that be there with A.D. Mitchell, with...
he was ninth.
I just don't... I'd be a little surprised if he's that high this season. But nonetheless, I think I've made my feelings known on Pittman. I think he's a very quality player, and I think he likes his contract. Again, he's looking forward to hitting the open market here in a couple of years or testing the ability to get that extension.
You ready for Twitter questions?
Let's do it.
I think if I can count my Decatur Central High School degree...
Let's go Hawks.
Yeah. I did not have a college course in college, a math course in college.
Okay.
I did have a college course in college. But JJ Marie is up first. 2 questions. You left off your 53 question list. By the way, hats off to you on that. I don't know if I could come up with 53 questions. Number one.
Shameless plug to our website. Please head there that JJ is referencing. But yes, thank you, Eddie, for that. It did take some time, but I like the annual exercise. I knew it was worth it when Rick Venturi texted me this morning and goes, I love reading this on an annual basis. I'm like, thank you, Coach. It's what I needed here.
Well, at least you know you have one person that reads it. Two, JJ Marie also reads it, allegedly. First Twitter question from JJ Marie. How does a team that ran it back with 22 starters expect to improve a barely above 500 season?
Anthony Richardson. Yeah, I mean, I think that's as simple. I don't know if I've said this directly, but it's kind of been something I've brought up on our show here this week, Eddie. I've never seen the fan base, and I would probably count myself in this boat, have so much intrigue for a Colts season in quite some time. Why? Why is that intrigue there? 9 wins in Shane Steichen's first year, and you did it without your 4th overall pick. And he has this oozing potential, and he has this stuff that you can't teach, and all. Like, that's why there's intrigue. So, okay, they're running it back. Yes. But again, Richardson really isn't in that run it back category. Like, he's separate from what happened last season for the most part. And then I think if you go on the next tier, Eddie, it's guys like a healthier Juju Brents or even Jalen Jones emerging more in year 2, or does Nick Cross take a jump? And again, you can have varying levels of confidence in these guys. But I'm just trying to point out, okay, why? Jelani Woods would certainly fall into that category. But yeah, to answer that one there, that one's easy for me. That's all Richardson.
Second question from JJ Marie is, how will the 28th scoring defense improve with mostly the same players, the same non-blitzing approach, and the same coach?
Yeah, and these are all very fair questions that certainly we've brought up, and I think JJ's accurate to do that as well. My biggest defensive goal for the Colts this season, Eddie. Disrupt quicker and more consistently.
Agree with you there.
That's not something that you obviously see in the box score, but if you do that, naturally to me the dominoes will fall. And what are the dominoes? The points will come down. The turnovers will go up. The big plays allowed will go down. Like that stuff. And so, okay, how do you go about disrupting quicker? Well, one, you can do it with a better pass rush. Your personnel could be better, i.e. Latu. But outside of that, Eddie, it's a lot of the same personnel. So you get into, do you blitz more? Do you have more variety that Charlie Partridge brings from a schematic standpoint up front? Secondary-wise, do you have stickier coverage? Are you tighter in your zone looks? Do you play a little bit more press man? Those things are all, that's what I think should excite people about the Colts' potential on defense, because there are many different ways they can do that. Now, Gus Bradley's MO has never really been that, though. That would be the counter to it. So, again, to me, it's just disrupting quicker and more consistently. Go to the biggest play of the season. Nico Collins over the top on the first play of the Houston game. DeForest Buckner's pretty darn close.
Oh, yeah.
He's pretty darn close to C.J. Stroud. Let's say, boom, E.J. Speed. They decide to dial up a blitz for E.J. Speed in the first play of the game. And let's say he gets to Stroud at step 4 or whatever it was. Maybe it was a 7-step drop. Step 6. And Stroud's like, yeah, first play, I'm not gonna try that. I'm gonna dump it to Singletary for 3, and it's 2nd and 7. In the box score, it might show up EJ Speed hurry, or maybe he'll hit Stroud, but that's not a sack. That's not a tackle for loss.
Yep.
That's not a turnover. It's 2nd and 7. The crowd still kind of looks at each other and like, hey, let's keep on standing up. It's only 2nd and 7. Like, it's about to be 3rd down. It's the biggest game this building's had in, 10 years. Like, that play is a little thing, but it checks my biggest defensive goal. Disrupt quicker and more consistently. Because if you do that, Nico Collins for 60-something becomes Devin Singletary for 3. And it's just, that's my biggest defensive goal. Can you disrupt, rattle, create off timing quicker and more consistently?
It just always makes me think of the Jacksonville Jaguars games, because this is Trevor Lawrence in 2022. 25 of 30, 20 of 22. That was last year, or 2 years ago. Last season, 24 of 32, 20 of 30.
There are so many quarterbacks that have had that against the Colts. I mean, this spans back to Eberflus. It's just, to me, Eddie, as well, when you let those guys get into a rhythm early, now they start having a little swagger. They start walking around like, some people do on the Vegas sidewalks.
Hell, P.J. Walker.
Now in the 3rd and the 4th quarter, when you need to fit one in there, they can fit one in there because they feel more confident. So, Yeah, I think that's a huge trickle-down effect as well.
Twitter question number 2 comes from Jason. I see many different takes predicting how Anthony Richardson will play this year, but not factoring in Shane Steichen much. And I'm glad Jason brings this up because I don't think we talk about Shane Steichen enough. Given how Philly crashed last season and how well above expectations Richardson played early last year, I think Steichen matters. But how much? Would it change how things go for Mahomes at all with a bottom 5 play caller?
I mean, I'll just speak for myself. I think it is a huge reason why I'm so intrigued.
Oh, yeah.
Because of Steichen. I mean, I feel like I've kind of made it clear. I just think Steichen is brilliant offensively.
Rivers, Herbert, Hurts.
Yeah, and the variety of styles of those guys. And, to me, he's super innovative. I mean, Mahomes is just a freak. I feel like we should probably just stop comparing anyone to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's one of one. I mean, he's just in a different category. Like, let's just throw him to the side and, maybe comp everybody else in a little bit more of an accurate playing field. And obviously last year we didn't even sniff anywhere near the full playbook for what the Richardson section looks like.
Oh, so,
yeah, I am very bullish on Shane.
Yeah, you heard what Michael Pittman Jr. had to say about that.
Yes, exactly.
Gary's Twitter question is next. Any news on Jim Irsay and how he's doing in recovery? One of the things I've always liked about Mr. Irsay is he is always encouraging Chris Ballard, quote, to go get his guy. Is there not a, quote, a guy at safety that could help us this season? Putting you on the spot, but yes or no, do you think this is our safety squad as is going into the season?
Yeah, Ballard left the door open for that. Let me answer by saying I would hope not, but I'm a little bit in I'll believe it when I see it. I just think Ballard is so staunch on his own guys many, many times. So, is one of his own guys Nick Cross? I don't know. Do you kind of view it like that? So, as far as Ballard, or as far as Irsay, when will we see him next? A week from Saturday, right, Eddie?
Yes,
that's
the
Canton,
enshrinement.
Ohio. Dwight Freeney first on the induction ceremony list. I don't know if that has anything to do with Jim Irsay's health. Is this something where, I don't know. I kind of forget. Do the inductees and the people presenting them, do they sit on stage or stand on stage? I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But yeah, we're supposed to see him a week from Saturday in Canton, Ohio. As far as Grand Park appearances, typically, and insert your jokes about the RV showing up in the back of that Wood family's lawn last year for Jonathan Taylor, we don't really see him a whole lot. I'd say maybe 1 to 2 times a camp. Typically, like the joint practices, he'll make an appearance and he'll have a little media session. Well, obviously, that won't be until the end of camp with Arizona in town if he would do that. So that would be after Canton, Ohio. And, okay, when is he going to meet the group in a media session? That thought has popped into my head. Theoretically, he doesn't need to do that in Canton. It's all about Freeney. Again, unless he shows up to camp, we're used to him making the annual appearance in the booth with Greg Rakestraw and Rick Venturi on TV. That would be that Arizona game. And, again, he could control a bit of the questioning if he would like to, given that it's a team broadcast. So I just share all of that to say those are kind of the thoughts that have run through my head on the Irsay front. But, again, the next public appearance for him, and the first one, of course, in quite some time, would be a week from Saturday in Canton, Ohio.
4 questions left. Rob, what are the odds that new defensive line coach Charlie Partridge can unlock next-level Kwity Paye and Dio Adengbo? He helped produce J.J. Watt and Trey Hendrickson. Can he produce the defensive line that Chris Ballard has dreamed of?
Yeah, Partridge is he's a guy that walks into a room with a lot invested in it. And I wonder how much that enticed him job-wise. Now, I think it's a little unfair to slot Dio and Kwity together. I feel like, especially coming off the Achilles, we've seen more from Dio in the consistent pressure area than we've seen from Kwity, especially when you factor in their snap counts. And obviously the two play different positions, and I think just because they're drafted one round apart, that's why we do that. But again, consistent pressure is the name of the game. So, what can you point out, whatever, Watt, Hendrickson. I mean, even the guys at Pittsburgh. I mean, a very decorated resume from Charlie Partridge. Is he the defensive hope, frankly, to really getting that figured out?
And he loved the rival at Grand Park too, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He did a little video walking through the woods there at Grant Park. Yeah, he did. I forgot about that. It is a cool setting.
Drew would like you to rank these in what you see as most likely. Number 1, Anthony Richardson throwing 10 picks. Number 2, Anthony Richardson running for 10 touchdowns. Number 3, Anthony Richardson is sacked 10 times. Number 4, Joe Flacco plays 10 games. Number 5, the Colts win 10 games.
Oh, boy. Okay, give those to me one more time. Most likely to least likely?
Most likely to least likely.
Okay.
First, Anthony Richardson throwing 10 picks. Second, Anthony Richardson running for 10 touchdowns. Number 3, Richardson is sacked 10 times. Number 4, Flacco plays 10 games. And number 5, Colts win 10 games.
Okay, if I'm going most to least likely, I would say the most likely is Richardson gets sacked 10 times. I mean, again, if you just run out of bounds and it's for a loss, it counts as a sack. So, 10 sacks are not really that many sacks when you think about it, especially if you play a substantial part. I'd say the least likely is Flacco playing 10 games. That would obviously be catastrophic, frankly.
He was sacked 7 times in 4 games last year. 2.5.
There you go. So let's go with Richardson sacked 10 most likely. I'll say Colts win 10 next up on the list. I'll say him running for 10 touchdowns might need to be higher than that, but I'll say running for 10 touchdowns is next, then the interceptions, and then Flacco playing 10. Yeah.
I would agree with you there.
That's a creative one. Something about Richardson, I was thinking, I went back and looked at how many deep balls he had last year. 5 pass plays over 25 yards.
Now, were these attempted or completed?
Completed. 5 pass plays over 25 yards. One was the Michael Pittman run after the catch against the Jags, the screen for a big touchdown week 1. He had a unbelievable throw on a corner route to Josh Downs against the Titans right before he got hurt. That was a 3rd and 16. And then against the Rams was easily the flashiest game. That was the big comeback game. And he extended one and found Mo Alley-Cox on the catch and run touchdown. He found Pierce with Aaron Donald draped on him. That's certainly a highlight play. And then, a play I think the coaching staff really liked is he had a ball to Josh Downs down the seam of that Rams game. But I found it interesting. I remember mentioning this on the podcast a few weeks ago, Eddie. Those 25-yard plays, he had 5 of them, right? 4 of them came on a 3rd and 16, a 2nd and 19, a 2nd and 20, and a 2nd and 28. When Minshew or Ryan or Wentz, when they got into those down and distances, I was calling for Rigoberto Sanchez. I was calling for Matt Hack. Like that. But with him and those down and distances, you'd think something like that could be there. He just like, you can't sleep on the dude. You can't sleep on the dude. And sure, it's not always going to work out, and there's going to be, a little bit of risk with it, although I don't think he shows a ton of risk in his playing style. But, man, it was kind of wild to see, to your point, in the 4-game sample size, 170-some snaps. Boom. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, he certainly is one of those guys where he can light the NFL on fire simply because, the potential is the moon. Like, he can do anything that he wants as long as he develops and stays on the field.
And I think the big play potential, like you can't sleep. Most teams get into 2nd and 25 and it's draw, and then it's, a screen and you punt.
Yeah.
I just don't see that with him under center.
Cody's up next. Second to final Twitter question. Hey, KB, first ever question for the pod, so welcome, Cody.
Cody, thank you, sir.
What are your thoughts on Josh Downs for the year? A lot of talk about A.D. Mitchell and Alec Pierce. Isn't it reasonable to think that Downs is the wide receiver 2 this year? If the defensive strategy for Anthony Richardson is to let him start to short to intermediate passes due to perceived inaccuracy, doesn't Downs benefit greatly? Downs still had a great rookie year last year, and short/intermediate passes were likely being taken away by defensive last season due to their quarterback. The Colts still don't have a breakout tight end to take away targets from Downs. He has a year under his belt and likely more room underneath to work with. Thanks.
Yes. Yes. And Chris Ballard would certainly agree with you. Yeah, Downs he's a forgotten security blanket. And I thought Cody
set the franchise record for receptions by a rookie.
Yeah,
this
remember
season.
you provided those stats to us a couple pods ago. Yeah, I thought Cody laid it out there beautifully. I mentioned the 2 big plays with Richardson. Yeah, he is a and I don't think, with Richardson and Taylor and then the threat of Richardson vertically, I don't think teams will be able to really try and account for Downs big time. He's going to have a lot of one-on-one. And I think I'm scarred as a Notre Dame fan and watching him a bit. He was dynamic as hell and productive as hell in college, and I think he's a great, consistent security blanket. And it's probably, calling him that is probably underselling him a bit. Mm-hmm. Again, he had a couple of big plays as a rookie. remember the one against New England in Germany?
Yeah.
If he doesn't come out with that ball, the Colts could lose that game. Yeah, it was incredible effort. Incredible effort on that end.
In regards to the wide receiver situation, I've started to think about this more and more frequently. When it comes to Pierce and Mitchell, I feel like we've gotten into this aspect of it's Mitchell vs. Pierce for the wide receiver 2. To me, I don't see it that way because they both provide 2 different things, at least in my eyes. Pierce is primarily your guy for downfield, long, those 2nd and 20s that we were just talking about. And he's terrific in the run game in terms of blocking. And then with Mitchell, I feel like there's more versatility. He can work short. He can work intermediate. He can work down the field. And I don't think this is one of those situations where it's like, hey, Mitchell's going to take over for Pierce's role this week. I think Pierce is going to have consistent roles each and every week in certain packages. And I think the same can be said for Adonai.
Yeah, I think the question, I think you laid that out well. I think Mitchell's got more potential to be a well-rounded guy. Pierce, a little bit more of a one-trick pony. But again, I still think that can be incorporated into a game plan. It would just limit that. Again, you pretty much only have 2 outside wideouts on the field at a time. Mm-hmm. So if you do the math, Pittman and then either or. Now, again, when it's Pierce or Mitchell, it could look different. I guess going back to Cody's point, yeah, I think at times we're like, who's the number 2 wideout? We do this with corner a lot. Like, we forget Kenny Moore plays outside corner. At wideout, the better question should be, who is the second outside wideout? If you want to get into a nitpicking position, Josh Downs is going to catch the second most balls of any wideout. That to me is of little debate. Mm-hmm. And Pittman 1 and then Downs 2.
Who would be third?
Probably Mitchell. Yeah, Pierce has never been a big catch guy. Mm-hmm. Even when he's played all these snaps. What did he have last year? 34 catches, something like that. So yeah, that's how I would view it. Downs is your number 2 wideout. He just plays slot. Number 2 in catches, but plays slot.
Mm-hmm. Final Twitter question. This is a fun one. We usually get one of these during the season. Devin says that his girlfriend has surprised him with Colts tickets to any home game this season.
Whoa.
Devin says...
Devin, get on a knee, brother. Come on now.
Devin says, I have never been to Indy and would like a recommendation on what game I should choose. I would love both of your opinions. Much love from North Carolina.
How about that? Boy, I believe Beyonce said at one point, put a ring on it. I believe would be smart there. Boy, okay,
if you
home
like
game.
It, you should put a ring on it.
Thank you there for Eddie Garrison going with the cover. Well, Dolphins game is Dallas Clark Ring of Honor, right? So
you would know that more than I would.
Really good opponent plus that. I think it's a good home schedule this year. Yeah, does Josh Allen entice you? Does Josh Allen entice your girlfriend?
But here's the thing. That's November. You're starting to get into the cold
I know. Well,
weather.
Okay. You could look at it glass half empty like that, or you could look at it glass half full. Could you double up with a Pacer game? Could you double up with a game at Hinkle Fieldhouse?
Who's to say Devin is a fan of one of those teams?
Well, I'm just saying. Yeah. Hey, do you want to look at September? You want to try and double up with a Fever game?
That's true.
Could have a Fever playoff game in October. Devin, all things to think about. And you know what, Eddie? I'm going to say this. Boy, how about that? The Lions. I kind of forgot about that Lions game. That's intriguing. And is that Indiana Knights?
Yes.
And the Titans game is the icy, road uni game.
The whiteout?
I think Colts Jags week 18 could be winning it in.
I do too.
I've always been a little more bullish on the Jags than most. I thought the Christian Kirk injury was huge last year.
Okay, so if you're wanting to double up,
I'm going Lions, but I wait till the Pacers schedule comes out, look into the Fever schedule, and I think you should go see Hinkle. but that's me.
If you're wanting to double up and you're wanting to come to Indianapolis for, let's say, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Friday, September 13th, the Las Vegas Aces are playing at Gainbridge Fieldhouse against the Indiana Fever.
And they're good. And
that would actually, sorry, take that back. They're in Green Bay that weekend.
Oh, well, screw that idea.
Yeah, so, just week one, I mean, Houston is on September the 8th.
That's Freeney's going to get his Hall of Fame, I think, ring from the Colts or something.
And then the Minnesota Lynx are at Gainbridge on September the 6th.
Devin, you got a hell of a girlfriend, and I appreciate the question. That was a tremendous. We got good questions right there, Eddie Garrison.
I would probably go with Miami because it's October. I think Touchdown Town's going to be popping still. You'll have nice weather. It'll be nice hoodie and jeans, hoodie and sweatpants weather.
Yeah. I'd probably vote Miami, but I'd look at those other schedules before you make a final answer on that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, we'll have camp content. I've already put a video up. You can check that out from today. Notebook as well. Those will be daily from Colts training camp. Probably Monday is what we're targeting for the next one. We'll be 3 practices in at that point. Monday's an off day for the Colts, so we'll probably come at you late Monday morning. He's Eddie Garrison. I'm Kevin Bowen. Everybody have a great week. Training camp is here. Football is here. Hallelujah.